Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, the Red Raiders are back on the road, so we're back to beating a dead horse, narratively speaking. Also, we hear from the Zen master of college football, Dave Aranda. Next.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks for making us your first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, happy hump day to you. We are looking downhill to Waco, Texas. It's the Baylor Bears, fitting the description of the next potential victim. And we turn our attention that way today. We will hear from their head coach, Dave Aranda, coming up on some of what they're doing offensively, which is a little bit of a new wrinkle tempo-wise, something Tech has to prepare for. And he also gives an assessment on what he sees as far as the Texas Tech ground game that we have discussed so much this week. But Chris, first, the headline for Texas Tech, as some of us are fond of saying, until it ain't anymore, is the road woe. You're still only a one-win team in the Joey McGuire era away from Jones Stadium in a true road setting, not counting a bowl setting, obviously. And don't want to make more of it than it is, Chris. You don't want it to become some complex in your team's head. I hate to kick a dead horse. So in our effort not to kick a dead horse, what do? Well, we begin the show today with a road game conversation, and we begin that with some thoughts from Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire.
Got to challenge our guys, we've got to play well outside of our comfort zone. Obviously, playing at Jones AT&T and playing in front of our fans is our comfort zone. And so now we've got to, pull closer together in a hostile environment and, play better and get a road win.
You really don't want to beat a dead horse. You don't want it to become too big of a thing, Chris, but it's got to be on everybody's minds. The reality is what the reality is. You've struggled.
Yeah, that Wyoming game is just going to continue to be like a thorn in your side for a while for a variety of reasons. One, because you lost it and it just didn't get the season started off on the right foot. But two, you could have started to change the narrative there and hey man, now we've won 2 road games in a row, dating back to last year. But now you're staring at a 1-6 true road game record, and again, it's going to continue to be something that it is asked about and discussed until it's just not a thing anymore. And only way you can fix it is by not just a win, but start winning on the road a bit. And I think the special teams aspect that we saw this past Saturday, that is something that I think would be, one of those types of plays on the road to kind of help change the narrative, I think would go a long way. Just special teams in general, because you go back to that Wyoming game, and you think back to some of the missed field goal opportunities. Yep. Not to point the finger or whatever, but I mean, it is what it is. That was kind of, and again, there's so many other things that didn't necessarily go well for you, but you mix in a few more field goal attempts or and from what you had, and I think maybe the outcome could have been a bit different. Anyway, and I go back to this predates obviously Joey, but the last time you were there when Sonny Cumbie was the interim coach, and I think there was a missed field goal at the end of that one, that cost you. Anyway, we'll see kind of what it looks like. I know what you and it. If I'm Joey and his staff this week, I don't make this about doing different things on the road, because I think they've kind of altered some practice routine and all that. I really make this about these guys whipped your behind last year, and you have a chance to remedy that. That's
in
the
front
way
of Patrick.
Yes,
a sold out crowd
and a national TV audience, and I mean on a Saturday night, and night games are supposed to be different in Lubbock, and it just wasn't. And that's the card I'd play if I'm them. And yeah, you have to tighten the huddle and manufacture your own energy, and you're going to have some Tech fans there, just because it's a night game and it's in Waco, and Tech fans are surrounding Waco and from all aspects, whether it be Metroplex or South Texas or whatever. So,
Yeah. What's that? Is it unfair to say that this is one of the lighter Big 12 road environments? I mean, typically, if there's something scary about it, at least from my far away perspective, it's what's in green and yellow on the sideline. It's some good teams that they've had there. But, I mean, you stand down there. What is the feel of the Banyo on the Brazos environment-wise?
I think the last 2 times I've been there, it's been pretty much full, and it's not an overwhelming crowd, and it's kind of the way the stadium is built. It doesn't necessarily trap the noise in there to where you feel like, oh my gosh.
Gotcha.
But it's not. And I think part of it too is that you do have more Tech fans there from a road game standpoint than you normally would. Like certainly than in like West Virginia or Wyoming, although I was shocked at how many Tech fans traveled to Wyoming and went to Laramie. It's for Baylor, it's a nice stadium. And I think it's better than Floyd Casey. I kind of miss the old. I miss some of those old stadiums, man. I grew up going to Texas Stadium watching the Cowboys with, the hole in the roof so God could watch his favorite football team, right?
Right.
Arlington Stadium were the Rangers, and it was basically just like a metal erector set right there off of I-30. And that's 2 stadiums ago for the Rangers.
Right.
in Reunion Arena in downtown Dallas, right off of Industrial and Katie's. Down there in downtown Dallas, which is none of these exist anymore. Floyd Casey, I think, still is there because most college stadiums, you don't just scratch or build a new one. You like renovate, like Texas Tech has done with Jones AT&T Stadium.
Yeah.
You renovate and tweak and update and all that, but they just basically said, "Hey, man, we're going to go." Because what's crazy is they are in Waco. They're doing the exact same thing with their basketball stadium right now. They're building a brand new arena on the other side of the Brazos right there no, not the other side of the Brazos, the other side of I-35. That'll be, on the Brazos River as well. So anyway, but McLean Stadium, it's nice. It's not anywhere near like the nicest stadium you're going to go to or anything like that. But for Baylor, I think it's been great for them. But it can be, it's not exactly easy to play there. But part of it is because Baylor has been pretty good recently.
That's true. And there's nowhere on the road technically that's going to be quote unquote easy. And I should say, with all due respect now to Baylor and these additional members, Houston probably has got the worst, if it's not Lawrence, Kansas. I don't know. Home field setting, of course, football things have improved in Lawrence, so that may be a little more heated than it used to be. But I don't know, maybe down in Houston that you're going to find the lightest hostilities, so to speak. I wouldn't mind light hostility for the Red Raiders on Saturday. So hopefully plenty in red and black will show up to make them feel at home. And yeah, back to what you said just a moment ago. I do not, you got to be very careful. I don't think you want to at all get into a spot of, okay, let's change some things up as far as our road formula, guys, because we've stunk and it hasn't worked. If you believe in what you're doing, continue to do what you've done. And for the most part, aside from some exceptions, K-State kind of sticks out to me a little bit. You've been in some really tough road games, so it's not like you just get blown out of the water and run out of the building. There's been some really heartbreaking results there.
I think that's what is lost here is that, look, this since Joey got here, which is we're talking about the 1-6 road record, the worst game you've played by far was versus Baylor at home. Okay, so so we're clear there. But last year, you went on the road in Raleigh, North Carolina, very early in the season. Your quarterback situation has just changed. I think that's a Saturday night. NC State is ranked, I think, 12th or 15th or something in the country. I don't care who you are, what quarterback was playing. That was going to be tough. Okay, and you got down 20-0, and then all of a sudden you're within like a one-score game, I think, toward the end, and then NC State pulls away. Oklahoma State, I think that you fought them, and Oklahoma State was rolling at the time. Baron Morton's first start, and you're lighting him up. Well, he tweaks his ankle at the end of the first half, and then that kind of altered it, and it still was down to the wire. I think Kansas State, you were in that game and you got down early, and these were at the time last year. These are like really good teams that we're talking about here.
Sure.
And Kansas State would go on to win the Big 12 championship. Oklahoma State was, now the wheels would fall off for them at the end of the year, but I mean they were rolling at the time that you got them, and they were healthy and all those things. And NC State was a top 15 team. Even TCU, we sit on the freaking runway for 8 or 9 hours last year on a Friday in Lubbock, Texas, and just one of the most miserable experiences you'll ever endure. And it was just like you were being held hostage, and it was just like everybody else handled it so much better than I did. But you get it, and it's an early kick the next day, and you get in much later than you thought. The routine is completely off, and then you go in there, and it's a pretty close loss. Where there's just a few things that could have gone your way, and you ran out of quarterbacks that game. You've got Barron, who was dinged up; he couldn't finish it. Tyler Shuck comes in, and he's not really good to go. It was just a mess, and they played for the national championship last year. Right. So, and I think you look at Wyoming and West Virginia this year. Those teams are a combined, Callan, 8-1 right now, or excuse me, 8-2. With their only losses to those two teams being the top 10 ranked Texas and Penn State. So you right there, you just didn't get over the hump. So
there's a heck of a lot more to consider than, well, you're 1-6. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. But have you thought about a 9-hour plane delay when considering that 1-6 record? Just some additional context. Last time the Red Raiders were in Waco under the lights, it was 1999, and it was a 35-7 win for the good guys. So hopefully that formula will be replicated, whatever was going down there. Okay, what's going down in Waco with those in the aforementioned green and yellow? Yeah, it's yellow. It ain't gold. What are you, blind? Let's take a listen to the Zen master of college football, Chris, Baylor Bears head coach Dave Aranda, who's a Red Raider at one point in time, spent time in Lubbock, obviously, as probably plenty of people remember. And we've talked so much over the last few days about what we see Texas Tech's rushing attack doing in finding so much consistent success with Taj Brooks. And, of course, this last Saturday, you probably know by now, you had 2 100-yard rushers for the first time in almost 25 years, or about 25 years. But let's get it from another vantage point. Let's take a listen again to Coach Aranda talking about what he sees in the Texas Tech ground game. First, today's episode brought to you by Bird Dogs, making you look good, feel great with their stretch shorts that fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you that sculpt your woman has always wished you had, whether you knew it or not. Way more flexible than stiff, restricting shorts you've had before, thanks to that cloud knit fabric, always made with cage-free, free-range clouds. They're going to stretch to give you movement without sacrificing that slimmer fit. And don't forget about the anti-stink sweat-wicking fabric, keeping you cool and dry on any occasion. Golfing, grilling, chilling, four-wheeling, car dealing, woman thrilling, doesn't matter. I'm serious when they say they're good for everything. So good, you won't want to take them off, we promise. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Or enter the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at checkout for a free custom water bottle with every order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for a free custom water bottle with every order. And you won't ever want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise. See for yourself at birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Let's get it from another vantage point. Let's take a listen again to Coach Aranda talking about what he sees in the Texas Tech ground game.
They spread you out, and then they run gap schemes. And so they'll pull a tackle, we call it a dart play, or they'll pull a guard and a tight end. So they run counter, GY, and then their backs are really patient. And so the backs will stay behind the pullers. If the pullers are coming this way and the back's coming, he'll stay behind. Then if there's no force, he'll bounce it. If there is hard force, he could cut it all the way back. So the spacing, the patience, and then the big playability, the speed to, when they do get in open grass, to make the most of it. And the final thing I'd add to that would be the tempo. I think there are times where there should be edges by design and defense and everything, and there's not, because they're worn down. Guys are tired. Guys are trying to get through this series, and something hits them.
Now, this guy's got a future in NPR radio, which is redundant, but NPR after coaching, I think. You told me this is like an ASMR experience, listening to Dave Aranda at a press conference. So rewind it if you'd like to get some goosebumps, I guess. But what did you make of his analysis of not only the ground game, but what they like to do offensively, Chris?
He's so calm. He's so it's weird because like this is not how a football coaches are fiery or kind of very pointed, and he's just like, yeah, well, what they do is they bring the guy, the tackle around, and but he knows football. Okay, he specifically knows defense, and I think he's basically diagnosing for the folks that were at that Baylor press conference, exactly what Texas Tech is doing with some of their run game right now, and it's. Because if you notice, one of the tweaks that Zach Kitley made, in the last week or so, and again, I don't know where this goes now because I don't know what the status of Mason Tharp is going to be because he did not finish that game, and obviously I think Baylor Cup is playing through some issues as well. But there was a lot of short yardage or goal line situations where Jaden York would go in motion and come back, and then I think that he's kind of like lead blocker type stuff, and then you're bringing you're pulling a guard or tackle from the other end, and there's just some different looks. But I think that that's one of my favorite things about Taj Brooks is the way he is patient behind his blockers. It almost looks like, because sometimes for a running back, it's all about the timing of everything. And some guys are just so fast that they can just like dart through a hole and one that's not even there. But a good runner, you kind of let your blocks set up and all that, and then you pick your spot because you're making the tackler have to make a choice. Okay, you made your choice, now I'll make mine. And you've got to let the block, give it time to get set up. And a lot of time young running backs, they rush that, and so the whoever's in front of them is supposed to lead block doesn't do them any good because they just can't wait. They're just so juiced up and amped. But that's what Taj does really well. I think it's interesting that Coach Aranda kind of points that out because it looks like Taj is sometimes just slow motion back there, but he's just waiting. Okay, now go. I thought,
SaRodorick Thompson did that very well.
I agree.
Also. I wonder what Brooks maybe picked up in those years with SaRodorick.
That's why in so many ways they're kind of the same runner, tough, all the hard yards, the little bigger than most, and they just very physical and Cameron is going to be different than that, and so I don't know. And I know we're going to talk because it's on the screen right here for people that are watching us. We're not going to talk about Baylor tempo because he mentioned that about the Tech tempo too.
Yeah.
What I would say is this is a bit of a tweak for Texas Tech, and it's some of the things they're doing with the run game is they've kind of, as the offensive line has gotten better, why weren't you doing this originally? Well, I think you thought your offensive line would be a bit better out of the gate because I think they'd shown you that this is what they were in practices, and then you get up to Wyoming and you come home to Oregon, and it's just not quite there yet. It just takes some time, unfortunately. And I think they're kind of morphing as we go here. I think it's interesting because with Coach Aranda and Baylor, they weren't really thought to be doing much tempo or we're going to do it at all. And all of a sudden they've kind of like, well, we tried it. It kind of works. It's helping. Let's do it. And I think this is what, like you're seeing with some of the nuances with the Tech run game, is that you change and you morph based on the variables of your team. Let's take some pressure off of the quarterback. We have a quarterback injury. So we can't do QB run anymore. We've got to tweak and alter and all these things. But it's just kind of interesting listening to Aranda kind of really go through exactly what you're doing on the dart schemes. And we call that GY. This is a dart. We call that a dart play. He's just pointing and very calmly, mind you.
Very, very calmly. And, this is something that he spoke about with his team as well. After he got him a little taste of that tempo, he said, I think I'd like to have me some more of that tempo. Apparently. How much will we see it here this week? Well, time will tell, but let's take another listen to Baylor head coach Dave Aranda talking about tempo as it relates to the Bears offense. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. And the NFL season is on and popping, and the only place to be in the center of all the action is with America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets back, guaranteed. But there's more. All customers, new or old, who bet $5 are going to get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Translation: right now is the best time to join FanDuel by downloading their safe, secure, and easy-to-use app where you can bet on anything and everything. And when you're a winner, you're always paid instantly with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and take advantage of their NFL kickoff offer that you can't afford to miss. From FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Let's take another listen to Baylor head coach Dave Aranda talking about tempo as it relates to the Bears offense.
I believe it benefits the offensive line. I think it benefits Blake Shapen. I think I know he is at his best when there's some momentum and things are kind of in a flow for him. And so I just, I look at it as just an evolving of the offense that we have and how can we move our pieces to better spots, keeping the same systems in place, but evolving to a faster operating system. And so we're looking forward to it.
Hurry up. On the ball. Hurry up. I've never been sped along by a calm guy like that, but maybe it's effective on game day.
We're looking forward to it. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Same systems. Just
I'd like him just to leave me a voicemail. I think if he's got some spare time, put me to sleep at night, man. But we haven't really been seeing this from them, I guess. Although it seems like everybody tries to go fast. But most recently, what have they tried to do, Chris? And what's this kind of evolution about, I guess?
I think they're, again, it's about trying. I think they're trying to get their offense going a bit. I think that they knew, and they've dealt with a quarterback injury as well. Obviously, Sawyer Robertson, who went to Lubbock Coronado, kind of filled in there for a bit. And what's the full circle? Just on a side story, I mean, Texas Tech, when they were recruiting for that class, what was it, 3 years ago, basically, and it was the Matt Wells' staff or whatever, but they basically were like kind of all in on Baron Morton and picked Baron over Sawyer Robertson. I don't know if Sawyer's going to even play in this game because Blake Shapen is back. So I think Baylor has kind of gone through some different things with they've played multiple quarterbacks and started multiple quarterbacks like you have to this point in the season. And I think they're trying to figure out what ails them. They also have a lot of new pieces on the offensive line, and it's a group that's different than last year. Obviously Texas Tech has the two new pieces up front, and it's just taken them a bit, but I think they're figuring out this is what they may be good at because you heard him say it. It helps them. It's in some ways, just because we're going faster, it's less for us. It's like we don't have as much responsibility. We get teams on their heels. And I think it worked against Central Florida because, against like Utah, they didn't really do a whole lot. This is a team that lost to Texas State at home, several weeks ago. But it's a different team all of a sudden now. That they look and feel different because they've got their quarterback back. There's a little momentum, and they're tweaking and morphing. These are teams, both of them, that are, trying to kind of figure out still who they are and maybe have found something. And what I don't know if we're going to call Baylor a tempo team, like go all in on it. And I don't know if we're going to call Texas Tech a running team in the run raid. Like Kenny Perry told me yesterday, he's like, hey man, we're not doing the air raid anymore. It's the run raid now. I don't know if we're all in on that, but I think what you've done is both coaches, staff said they found something that is working and they're trying to, if not major in it, certainly minor in it, and they're kind of altering who they are a bit based on what is working, and again, some of the variables that have been dictated to them, mainly some QB injuries and things like that.
Yeah, this is a really interesting matchup, Chris, because I don't think either of these teams have gotten to really show who they are or who they want to be just yet, for some different reasons, but also for some similar reasons, like you were talking about with some quarterback impact and things like that changing for both Baylor and Texas Tech. And whoever's able to win this game, you really wonder what it might propel them to on the other side if you find a little footing. And I think with a win, either one will be back to 500. So it'd be interesting to see what this could do for a team or either team that has had a start out of the gates. Obviously, neither one wanted, but a long season and plenty of time to get your feet back under you and try to get to a bowl game, which is not what we were talking about only here in Lubbock, obviously, thinking contending for some hardware possibly. But either way, I don't know that you can really extrapolate a whole lot on steadfast ground about either one of these teams through the month of September, because we could see a very different month for either Baylor or for Texas Tech, something we'll get to tomorrow. We'll hear again from Dave Aranda on Baylor's most recent experience last weekend, game-wise, out in Orlando, Florida. And you'll hear Coach Aranda talk about the belief, obviously, that comes with that and how that can translate to your teammates. And hopefully some of that there for Texas Tech in a win last week. But we know in this road setting, there is still a bit of a monkey on that Red Raider back that they are looking to get off. So maybe they find that formula. Hopefully they do. Got a few more days to discuss it and get you ready for it before Saturday night from Waco. And we're back to do that coming up tomorrow. Chris, enjoyed it as always, man. Thanks for the time and the insights. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Guns up, people. Let's go. Hey, I mean, if I was firing up a football team, and trying to get them to play hard, I would sound like Dave Aranda. I just want people to know that. Yeah.
I don't know. I know no one would buy that from me.
I can't not listen to the guy. I love it. I think he's great because it's so outside the box and different. And I just kind of like how Joey is been a bit different. I mean,
sure. Seeing
Joey in a bad mood is just not something, or angry, or really is not something that, and I don't know. I'm fascinated by coaches' behaviors because they are in their most pressure-packed profession that there is. So,
and Aranda, does he have a grad degree from Tech? Was that what it was?
I think that's right. I think he undergrad. I can't remember where, but I think he came here. He was here for 2 years under Greg McMackin in the first. I think it was the first Mike Leach staff. He was here for either 1 or 2 years.
Gotcha.
Before he would leave. But he's. I mean,
and what you don't know, like a lot of people don't know this, he showed up at Tech a raving lunatic. He acted like Sam Kinison, and he left here the college football Zen master. So what could a Tech degree do for you and your well-being? Yeah. Try it out here in Lubbock, Texas, America, or any of our fine satellite or sister affiliate campuses.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, thanks for joining us once again, and thank you out there for joining us. Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode, and we will see you for the next round right back here at Locked On Texas Tech.